Okay, well, welcome to our April ACE monthly program. For those of you that are new to ACE, ACE is a nonprofit association of professionals, and we provide a large array of services as consultants to businesses, nonprofits, and other organizations. You can find out a lot more about it at www.aceelevates.org. It's just .org, not .org.com. And I would like to thank Camden National Bank as they are hosting our live session today where Matthew and Brianna are. ACE has three pillars that we try to do for our members. One is to provide opportunities for networking so we can connect and develop relationships with other consultants and help build all of our referral networks. We also focus on learning, and that's, for example, this program today, trying to help us build professional skills that will help us as independent consultants and service providers do a better job of running our businesses. And promotion. We like to provide visibility to consultants and their businesses. We do that in a number of ways. We have an article that we write for every edition of Main Biz called Ask ACE, which is we get to ask a question that we either hear from our clients a lot or we would like to hear from our clients a lot in 250 words or less. We also have a how-to article that we don't control. It's not exclusive to us. But Main Biz often asks us to do a how-to on subject matter, specific subject matters. Tom Morgan, for example, did one on sales not too terribly long ago. And we have a new initiative called ACE Speaks, which we have partnered with the Lewiston Auburn Metro Chamber of Commerce, and we're working with several other chambers to provide opportunities for our members to present to their membership. One item on an upcoming event. So we will be hosting the second ACE Consultants Academy on May 23rd. We'll be back at the Portland Country Club on that. It'll be a 3-hour session, in-depth session for not only new consultants, but also for some of us who can probably use a little bit of a refresh. And it'll be good to be back to the Portland Country Club again. They are no longer hosting breakfast meetings, but they're hosting this type of a meeting. So now I would like, since we're a small group, I'd like to do some introductions. And so what like to do is just kind of go around the room. Matthew, let's do the live folks there first.
Hi, I'm Brianna Howard. I work for Kindred Associates, and I help people with advising them on insurance and health insurance mostly.
Thank you, Brianna.
Matthew Buda, North Star Evolution. I work with small and medium-sized businesses to build innovation strategies, positive work culture, and an overall process improvement.
Thank you, Matthew. Francis.
I'm Francis Everly, and I am with a group called Price Associates, and I help people really see things they wouldn't see themselves. So I do that through coaching, whether it's teams or performance at the individual and team levels.
Okay. Bob Labrie.
Bob Labrie with Labrie Training Consulting, specialized in training basic and advanced sales, leadership communication, neurolinguistic programming, and customer service.
Great. Thank you, Bob. N. Saunders.
Hi, all. Yeah, my name is Nick Saunders. I work with systems engineering. So I'm an IT consultative resource here in town. We work with organizations on IT support needs, cybersecurity, maturity models, things of that nature.
Great. Thank you, Nick.
Hey, Francis.
Stacy.
Hi, I'm Stacy Weisner. I work for a company called Nudesic, who's a systems integrator, and I work with a lot of specializing in healthcare. I work a lot with plans, providers on trying to innovate their business and their business models, and obviously using technology to do so. And I apologize for the noise. I have people working in my house.
Yeah, we can't hear it at all, so. Okay, and so at this point, I would like to introduce our speaker. This is Jennifer's second program that she's given us. The first one was great, and I'm sure this one will be as well. So Jennifer Fry is the CEO of Appreciated Asset Business Solutions. They create, build, and fill sales pipelines for their clients. Their Sales Accelerator program offers concierge level done-for-you appointment setting service for industry disruptors. So at this point, I will allow Jennifer to tell us all around how do we be disruptive.
So today we're going to talk about being an industry disruptor and really breaking away from status quo when it comes to messaging your business. I'm going to start here by a question that I get really, really often, which is, what is a disruptor? And I think, no matter who you ask, you're probably going to get a different answer because it's pretty subjective, but I'm going to give you my definition. So for me, a disruptor is someone who stands outside status quo of what is expected of them. Someone who is bold enough to want to offer a service, a product, a delivery that is so far superior to what we are all expecting of that service and delivery, that it's apples and oranges. It's no longer comparing, it's no longer competing against anyone else. You're creating a message and you've got a value proposition that is so far ahead of what everyone is used to in that space, that it's putting you in an entirely different stratosphere. Why do you want to be a disruptor, right? It's going to ruffle some feathers for sure, especially of your previous perceived competition. But the main reasons you really want to look at becoming a disruptor in the industry, or a lot of times, you guys, people already are disruptors in their industry. They're just not being bold enough in their messaging to get that across to their ideal prospects. So you want to be a disruptor for a few reasons. One is because it creates a clear value proposition. It sets you apart from all of the other noise in your space. It creates relationships versus transactions. Relationships are long-term customers that will help you build and scale your business. Transactions are more one-offs that are built on things like speed or price that aren't really creating a long-term client for your business. Being a disruptor helps you eliminate the competition, like I mentioned before. Setting your service that is so far apart, once someone goes there, they'll never be able to go back. Once they experience the service and the quality in the way only you can provide, there would be no one else to work with. It strengthens your company culture and brand. It creates buy-in from your team, and it creates identifiable differentiators for your ideal prospects. And it attracts the right clients. So I'll give you guys an example. Our ideal clients are disruptors. We want to work with disruptors. We want to work with people who are shaking things up and really want to stand out in their spaces. So the most important thing for us is having the messaging we do about the way we work with disruptors. Our clients hand raise to work with us. And sometimes more importantly than that, businesses or prospects that are not interested in disrupting their industry, that really are not interested in being bold in their messaging and standing out in that way to provide that superior level of service, they also self-select out. They realize they are not the right partner for us. And that's just as important as the ones that are hand raising that they do want to work with us. So it really does bring the right clients into your world when you get bold with your messaging. How are we going to achieve this? So today, this is our agenda. We're going to learn how to think like a disruptor, learn how to message like a disruptor, and then follow up like a disruptor too. I'm going to go over a bonus with you guys for a lead finder activity that I do. I think I've been through it with a couple of you guys on the phone here. separately, but it's a great reminder. And then I have the whole exercise available for anyone who would like it. And then we'll go through some Q&A. Okay, so a little bit about me. I started this business 6 years ago after spending my whole career in business development. I have developed an expertise in strategizing, implementing, and training for that top of the funnel activity, prospecting and appointment setting. I've really found a huge strength in creating connection for people that they don't necessarily see for themselves. Our business, like Terry mentioned, we have a concierge level done for you appointment setting service. I am the creator of the Disruptor Designer Method, which is the onboarding process that we take our clients through when they come to work with us. And just personally, I am originally from Boston. So I think I'm amongst quite a few Red Sox fans in this room today, which I'm very pleased with. Currently, I live in Charleston, South Carolina. So feel free to come visit when that snow hits next winter. And my son, Max, and I enjoy taking advantage of everything Charleston has to offer. And I'm going to have to update that because he's going to be 10 in a couple of weeks here. And I'm going to have to get my mind around that. All right. We're going to start, you guys, with disruptive thinking. And some of these things I'm going to take you through are going to feel foreign because I'm going to ask you to think of your business in ways that you have not currently thought of it. But it simply is a matter of mindset shift when it comes to looking at your business. So when we do that, we're going to talk about getting outside the jar. And I had a client tell me this when I had taken her through this process. She had a marketing business. She did messaging and branding for her clients. And I brought her through our Disruptor Designer, and she said, I have never thought of my business in this way. I've never asked these questions. And she said, you cannot see the label from inside the jar. So sometimes just the idea of having someone walk you through exercises to think of your business in a different way will be able to help trigger you to ask the questions that will help you message in different ways as well. So let's start by defining status quo in your industry. And, we've got a small enough group here. So if anyone would like to unmute and, get in a hot seat, we could definitely go through this. But you want to start by defining what is the status quo in your industry? What are your prospects used to? What do they think of when they hear about who you are and what you do? We want to define what that looks like. A lot of times we can, by looking at that, message directly to the preconceived misconceptions of what it's going to be like to work with you. So let's talk about status quo and lead generation. I'm not seeing any hand raises, so if anyone does, please let me know. Status quo in my industry, lead generation, right, is a lot of people with headsets and cubicles. They're robocallers, they're call centers. They're just robotic, boring, dry scripts, and they're just going to throw a bunch of garbage at the wall to see what sticks. So that's status quo for lead generation. The next question we want to look at, and I love this one, is what are people saying who need you who don't know that they need you? So example, no one says, hey, Stacy, I am looking for a concierge level done for you appointment setting service that focuses on industry disruptors. Who do you know? They don't say that because they don't know that's a thing. But what they are saying is I need more sales. I want more leads. Our business is growing, but we really want it to grow more. They're saying things like, I am disrupting the industry. I'm disrupting, the way we're providing better service. I don't know why we can't break away from all the other noise in our space. Those are the things that they're saying. So what are people saying who need you and your solution, who don't know that you are the answer to their problems? You're the answer to their prayers. Who's heard of Witham? Probably everyone, right? What's in it for me? We really want to create ideas around when we talk to your prospect. It's not about you, it's about them, right? So what is in it for them? And one of my favorite prompts for this question is, this matters to you because. Again, I'll go to myself as an example. For me, when I speak to someone, I explain, look, this matters to you because you can outsource the first part of your prospecting appointment setting. You can show up to those sales calls with pre-qualified warm leads, and then you can just focus on that part of the business, and we can handle the rest and keep your pipeline full. And this matters to you because you don't have to worry about the ups and downs of a sales pipeline that dries up and spikes and lowers. The other thing we want to do with this prompt is look at two different answers for this. So you want to look at this matters to you because for the decision maker, your ideal prospect. You also want to look at this matters to you because for the gatekeeper, because sometimes that's all you're going to reach. And you want to create an advocate and an ally from that gatekeeper. So when we're speaking to that gatekeeper, we want to explain to them why it matters, because they're going to have a different, it's going to be a different value proposition for them. They have different priorities and different problems. They've got different headaches. So creating two different statements for that is great. The common misconceptions about working with you. So I addressed this a little bit about the lead generation, but we can take it to any single industry. There's common misconceptions. There's people have had bad experiences. There has been some form of snake oil that they have been sold, and they're bitter, they're jaded, and they're gun shy about talking to anyone else. So I think addressing that straight on is a great way to really stand outside and just be really bold in your messaging. I know, there's a lot out there. I know you may have felt this or experienced this in the past. This is how that would never happen with our firm. Francis, I saw you come off mute. Did you have something?
I did have a question. I have a way I try to get at this one, but do you have a suggestion to learn from the client you're maybe talking with, what experience they might have had with consultants before?
Yeah, I mean, you absolutely can, ask the question. I'm feeling like there might be a little resistance here. Is it safe to assume, that there was a less than ideal experience for you in the past? And a lot of times I will explain to people, I'll say, look, I get it, but I can't speak to that consultant because I don't have anything to do with them. Again, really separating yourself out, but acknowledging their experience, I think is really important.
Yeah, that's
Is that
good.
helpful?
Yeah, I mean, I asked the general question, like, so have you had experiences with consultants before, and how did that go? Probably to learn that, say, okay, I'm not going to do that, whatever it may be. But yeah, to try and uncover this, I think it's an important question.
Yeah, I think it's an important question, and I think it's also a great opportunity for you to address head on when they tell you the experience, explaining very directly how you would have handled that differently. I'm so sorry to hear that happened. When we run into this with our clients, this is the way we handle that situation. Does that feel different than what you experienced?
Yeah, I mean, I don't get lots of resistance, but you can notice the hesitation, or in my case, it's often HR people because they think, well, I know everything.
Yeah, there can certainly be a lot of resistance in HR, and sometimes going towards a lateral department and bringing the solution in that way for HR could be really helpful. I'd be happy to talk to you with some strategy there offline if you'd like.
Thanks.
So we're going to talk about disruptive messaging. Because thinking like a disruptor is one thing, but being able to really get out there and message like one is the difference, right? So we're going to start with the beginning. We want to identify your ideal clients, and we're going to do that with the demographics. That's what we all have done, right? Ideal size, location, industry, team size, and revenue size are two very different metrics, but they're both important to have. Basically, all the things, you guys, that we can identify with a radio button when we're doing a filter, search filter. But then we want to take that list and we want to cross-reference it with your ideal psychographics. And I'm happy to take some people through this today to help you identify your ideal psychographics, but I'm going to tell you what that means. If anyone has ever had a one-call close, or sometimes it's just a call that, you know, your initial call that very naturally turns into a client very quickly, smoothly, and easily. And you get done with that deal and you think, God, that was so easy. Why can't they all be like that, right? What's typically happening when you have a deal that moves very quickly through your pipeline is that they have an issue that they acknowledge and you have the solution for it. So that's surface level, good timing and, you know, a good fit. But what's really typically happening below the surface is that you have an aligned psychographic. There's commonality, you are like-minded and like-hearted. And, you know, typically what that means also is some sort of values alignment as well. So for us, I'll let you guys guess, what's our psychographic? Disruptors, right? Businesses who are disrupting or want to. We know if we are working with someone who identifies that way or wants to, that they're going to be collaborative, they're going to be bold, they're going to think outside the box, and they're really going to be here for a partnership, which is what we're here for. So we know that that's our ideal. And then you want to create your marketing messaging. And I do this, you guys, with every client, and it's always super interesting. So in marketing 101, you learn that you can be better, faster, or cheaper. You can be two of those three, but you cannot be all three. By the way, I don't work with anyone who's cheaper, and I don't suggest you ever message that way. But what I've learned about working with industry disruptors is they actually are all three. They are better, they are faster, and while no, they're not cheaper, they are a better investment. They're a better use of funds. So my question for you is, how are you better? How are you faster? And how are you a better investment? And creating that again into your messaging when you talk about your business, when you set your business apart. You're not just this, you're not just one thing. Because going back to this messaging 101, that first, you know, month of business school, when we go in and we're learning all about how to create value propositions for businesses, you know, they say that you can be better and faster, but you'll be more expensive. You can be faster and cheaper, but you're going to suffer on quality. And you can be better and cheaper, but it's going to take a while to get your product or service. So if you can show your prospects that they are not going to have to sacrifice any one of those areas by engaging with you, that they're actually ahead within each of those areas, then there's no, you're eliminating any sort of contemplation of comparing you to anyone else. Does that make sense? The other thing that I really like to do is when I'm doing my messaging, go through mission, vision, and values. Get really clear about why you are here, what you are doing, what you want to see for your business, for your industry, for your clients. What are the values that really, really matter to you? I have a list, you guys, we're going on page 2 at this point. We have so many values that are so important to us. And we like to tell our clients about those, because when they hear something that mirrors with them, again, what are we doing? We're creating values alignment. And if they don't hear something that matters to them, we're probably not the right fit. So again, by us sharing that in our messaging, that our mission is to create a ripple effect for wonderful business solutions and helping them grow their footprint. You know, our vision is to change the narrative about what sales is, should be, could be. And our values, again, the list goes on, but we've got growth mindset, gratitude, truth and transparency, integrity, heart of service, disruption. So if those values don't align, then we're not going to be the right partner. And again, it creates that chemistry, or becomes very clear early on that that's not going to be the right fit. When we talk about disruptive messaging, I'm going to go back to kind of don't do this and do this instead. So we're going to start with don't do. Do not pitch on speed or price. 5% better, 10% faster is so boring. It is not interesting enough to let anyone else prioritize the time to meet with you to discuss further. It's not creating a relationship for you. It goes back when we talked about creating a transaction as opposed to a relationship. Because what happens when you sell someone on price because you're 5% cheaper than what they're currently doing, or 10% faster, and someone comes behind you and cuts you by 2%, they're gone. They're gone. If you have value in a way that no one else is able to provide, then you've created a relationship that will last with that client. So we talked about how you better, faster, and a better investment. What value will you provide on the initial discovery call? So this is really important. When I was doing search engine optimization, I was able to get on a website I'd never been on before. I used to sell services for an SEO company. And I never wrote a line of code in my life. That was certainly not a skill set I ever developed. But I learned what good SEO looked like. And so I could get on the phone with someone I'd never spoken to and be on their website in real time that I'd never looked at. And I could say, here's what's going on in your website that's preventing you from top page visibility. You don't have 3 to 7% keyword density on the homepage of your website. You don't have a locational qualifier in the meta title, and you don't have unique interior descriptions on your interior pages. That's why you don't have top page visibility. And I had like 15 other reasons. So I could everything I gave was true in real time. And that was the value that I could provide. And I booked a ton of calls that way with people because I gained their trust. I knew what I was talking about. I was completely in integrity and just giving information away that was actually pretty valuable to them. You know, so if they worked with someone, they could go back to that individual and say, why aren't these things implemented if I'm paying for SEO? So I'm going to push that over to you guys. What value, when you reach out to someone and say you want to have a discovery call, you want to have a conversation about your services, what value will you provide for them on that call? You know, the 3 reasons that Q2 is the very best time to implement, systems engineering or IT audit. It's the very best time to look at your HR solutions. The 3 red flags that you can look on your team that indicate that there's a culture problem and that you need us to come in and take a look. Those are the kind of things you could look for, okay? And you want to talk about what are the results a client is going to see when they work with you. You know, for us, it's that consistent pipeline so that there's no fluctuation, a consistent flow of leads into your business, of qualified leads. The house fire example, I was talking to a group of safety professionals, and when I started thinking about how to talk to them about, how to identify a problem. So a couple years ago in our neighborhood, we had a lightning storm, and one of the houses in the neighborhood got hit by lightning. And while you couldn't see it because there were no flames, the house was on fire. It was on fire in the walls. The way it had hit, the house was burning from the inside out. But if you were in the house, you wouldn't have even known. Okay, there was no smoke. It was all behind the walls. And they knew because they happened to be home. They called the fire department and everything's fine now. But let's use this house fire example. There are some times that your client needs your service, but the house isn't on fire. They don't see the flames, so they don't know what to look for. And if they weren't home, if they didn't feel that impact, maybe they wouldn't have known. So you can help them identify like how to maybe tell your house might be on fire right now and you don't even know it. Does that translate for everyone? Does that make sense to group outside of safety professionals? Awesome. Awesome. All right. So now we're going to talk about disruptive follow-up, because this is a way that you will disrupt what most people are going to expect of you. Okay. You can reach out to someone, and guys, I believe that cold calling is the fastest, most effective way to build rapport with your prospect wish list. Some of you on this call have heard from me. The bottom line is, whatever the outreach of choice is for you, it needs to be done, but it needs to be done consistently and persistently so that you can move people through your pipeline. So the first thing I'm going to tell you is, do not make up stories for yourself. So you reach out to someone and you know you have a service that is of value for them. You know you have a service that can help them, and it's absolutely your responsibility to reach out to them and let them know how you can help them. And what they choose to do with that information, it's really not any of your business. That's not up to you. But it is your responsibility to reach out and let them know how they can help, how you can help them. But a lot of times what we do is we make up stories in our head to stay safe. So the brain does some really funky things, especially when it comes to sales. And we are all wired to stay safe. And our prehistoric brains, our reptilian brains, see rejection with the same level of danger that our cavemen used to see a woolly mammoth in front of us. So what we do is we create stories for ourselves to get away from that situation. So the story is, you reach out to someone, they don't call you back. It's because they don't like you. It's because they're not interested. It's because they don't need your service. Whereas in reality, their kid had a talent show last night that they were rushing to get out the door for. They've got a holiday dinner coming up next week, a birthday party to get ready for, onboarding a new employee, and they're implementing a new team training solution for their client delivery department. I just gave you a bunch of things that are going on right here in this office right now as to why I maybe didn't get back to someone. There's a lot going on. So to create a story that has something to do with you is really not in your best interest to do that. So don't make up stories. Having the disruptor mindset and really having that mindset shift away from that they're doing you a favor by taking your call, by meeting with you, anything like that, to that you are there to serve them. And again, you know that you can help them. That's going to help you, because it's also going to help you think outside the box in ways that you can help them. I think it's really important when you have an initial discovery call, when you have an initial sales call with people, to ask an insane amount of questions to get a really good idea of what their current situation looks like, what their goals look like, so that when you talk about how you can help, you can speak really intelligently to, what solution, what direction may best suit them based on what they're already telling you. It saves everyone a lot of time of going down a road that's irrelevant. When following up, creating very clear next steps and timelines. So when you do speak to someone, getting that next call set on the calendar or deciding when the best time is to set that next call. And for me, it's also about, working with a client in a timeline that best suits them, not what best suits me. Again, people have a lot of stuff going on. So someone not moving forward with you right now does not mean they're never moving forward with you, does not mean they're not interested. They just may have other priorities on their plate right now. So getting really clear on what those timelines look like. And then calendar blocking is so important. If you just think you're going to get an extra 2 hours for follow-up and you haven't created that space in your calendar, it will never happen. So best practices is every 4 business days, reaching out to people to follow up until you know what's next. Whether that is another call, whether that's kicking the can down the road a little bit, because like I said before, there's other things going on, or whether that's the next step of, getting a signed agreement or getting an onboarding call set, whatever that looks like for you. The calendar blocking is the most important part of this because for most people, they would rather not do this follow-up. And this really will help hold you accountable to making sure that you are staying ahead of this. And the right people will appreciate it when you follow back up with them. It also helps the right people hand raise. The people who do not appreciate that are probably not going to be the people who are going to have a productive professional relationship with. The 3 ins, I love this for follow-up. So, and again, I can't see everything, you guys, so you can hand raise, nod, thumbs up, whatever. But who has done these follow-up calls or emails? I'm just checking in. I'm just following up. I just wanted to circle back. I just wanted to reach out, right? First of all, don't ever say just. It's asking me, you're asking someone to like excuse you from taking up space, and let's just not do that. You are a professional, you've got a right to reach out in a professional way to follow up. The 3 ins of follow-up, I really, really love this. This is another way to bring value to every interaction. When I reach out and follow up with people, I often send them an invitation to an event that I've got coming up, either that I'm hosting or that I'm going to, or that I was invited to, or it's an online networking group that I think would be great for them. But inviting people to things that are coming up, it brings value for them when you do that. It's also super inclusive, which I like, and it gives you more time to have that individual in your space. So I do this locally whenever we have, local events. I love to invite, I'm part of a women's networking group. I love to invite other women too. I'm part of the Harbor Club, which is like a downtown business social networking club downtown. I love it there. And I love inviting people to come experience that as a guest as well. So anytime you have a chance to do that in person or online, it's a great opportunity. Introduce. So often we hoard our introductions, we hoard our connections, and we don't make the connections that would be really valuable for people. So introducing someone to an ideal client is great. Introducing someone to a collaborator or power partner. Does everyone know what I mean when I say power partner? I'll explain. A power partner is someone typically who is a really strong referral partner for you, a really strong collaborator. So someone that typically you have the same service and different clients, or the same clients and different services. Those are typically really great power partners. So for example, a power partner for a CPA, maybe a financial advisor. Power partner for a bookkeeper, maybe a business coach. Power partner, does that all make sense? Like people that work really closely with a lot of the same kind of people, offering very different services. Those are my favorite kind of power partners. So making introductions for people and connecting people is a great way to stay in touch with people. And then inform. I love providing information. Hey, you mentioned that your kid was really into soccer, and I happen to see this soccer camp come up on my feed that I thought may be relevant for you. Or you mentioned that you've got this hobby, or you mentioned that you're traveling to this location, and I just saw this, or I want to sit along this restaurant that I love in San Francisco while you're there. Check it out. So giving people information is another really great way to stay top of mind, be valuable, and not always making it about you. Does that feel different to you guys than maybe ways that you've followed up in the past? Somewhat.
I would say not a lot. I think that I kind of think of it this way as well in terms of if I can introduce somebody or if I can figure out in some way to inspire them a little bit. That's kind of another word, and you know, and sometimes that has to do with what else do you know? Who else do you know in this industry? How are they doing? That type of thing. So
Yeah, I love it. Very good. Very basic, you guys. This is very highline, but you know, what do you say? You're going to introduce yourself. You find your common ground. This is with more cold outreach. Ask a lot of questions. People love to talk about themselves. So the more questions you ask, the more you have them talking. This is pretty basic, but asking really, really pointed questions, and maybe questions that they have not already been asked about their business, is always a great way to really stand apart. I love it when I ask them a question, they go, no one has ever asked me that. I've never thought of that before. That always really helps because I'm interested in the answer. Focusing on the benefits of the solution, not the features. No one cares about your specs. It does not matter. It doesn't matter. You want to focus on what is in it for them, okay? How does it benefit them? Why your service aligns with their goals. Once you've asked all these questions, you're going to have information so that when you talk about your solution, when you talk about the way you serve, you can gear it very directly to speak directly to the way that they want to grow out and build their own business. The biggest headaches they're facing, biggest challenges, the place they're spending the most time. Those are all great questions, right? One of the questions I love is, what keeps you busiest right now? Their answer to that may give you the opportunity to make an introduction, again, that has zero to do with you. So you can get that part settled for them. You're now a resource and a trusted advisor. And then you can open that door once that fire gets squashed.
Jen,
Ask for an appointment. Yes.
what, you know, it's interesting. You've heard this slogan, knowledge is power, right?
Yeah.
Well, I've recently read that it's not knowledge that is power, it's the reorganization of knowledge that is power. And that's what you're doing with this. You're taking a lot of the basic stuff that we all know and having us look at it in a different way. And I think that's cool. It makes you think. You know, it makes you think in a different mode. I mean, for example, everyone should know that you focus on benefits and not features, right? But sometimes it just takes someone to come right out and say something that's so obvious, that should be so obvious to all of us, to have someone come out and say it in a different way to bring it home. So I think what you're doing when you're disrupting our normal flow, if you will, and making us think in a different way, which is cool.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, it goes back to that you can't see the label inside the jar. If you've always messaged your business in one way, unless you get outside of that, it's very difficult to do it a different way. You've got to put a different hat on and look at it from a different perspective. Okay, so you want to ask for the appointment for an in-depth conversation. I would never jump into an in-depth conversation on an initial call. Just don't do that. If you've, cold calling, for example, you've reached out to someone, unless they have given you the green light, let's do this now, which is great, and it does happen every once in a while. Do not assume and jump into that. You're calling someone off guard. Be respectful of their time as well and say, really, the whole idea, the whole reason I was reaching out is to set up a further conversation. When's convenient? And let's set a time. And then if not
Jennifer,
now.
Can I just go back for a minute? I want to go back to something that Bob said. It also connects to what you've been saying, and that is about the focus of solutions, the benefits of your solutions, not the features. Because in those conversations, when you're talking with them and asking them questions, they'll say, "Well, what do you do?" And then immediately, in your mind, you think of the activities or the systems, and it really takes a lot of effort. As Bob said, you have to think in a different way in that moment when it's going on, to not just jump into, oh, I do this, this, and this, I have this program, and I think that's it's a good reminder to think in a different way. So thanks.
Also, you could use a story too, which is kind of cool. If someone says, "What do you do?" say, well, have you ever had a situation where this happened to you? That's kind of what I work on. And here's an example of how I did that. So you bring in a story and maybe even a little case study, just enough. Now that's hard. I wouldn't do that on the initial call unless, of course, like you said, they open that door. Yeah, I like to ask questions like, what keeps you awake at night?
Mhm.
What are some of the, what are some of the things that, because these are the areas I work in, is any of those areas an area of concern? I mean, there's a million questions you can go, but the important thing is to, like Francis said, think of it in one way, but think of it in another way too. Don't be afraid to change, I guess is a good way.
Yeah. I like to also ask them what's working for you right now in this area. In my case, it's leadership development. So, and you'll find out what they're doing, if anything, and it gives you some inside knowledge of
If anything, I
what
like
they're
it.
doing and not doing. And that begin, before you ask about challenges, to try to get them to talk about all the great things that they're doing and feel good about themselves.
Yeah, because you may be able to complement what's already working
Correct.
rather
Yeah.
than reinvent the wheel. You're so right. The other thing I like to do is turn a no to a not now. So someone may say, I'm not interested. I don't have time. I can't afford this. We all know time, money, interest. Those are like the three objections you're going to see almost universally. Okay, no time, no budget, no interest. So I would recommend that you have responses, not rebuttals, gross, responses for each of those things that someone may say to you, and turn a no into a not now. Look, I get it. There's a lot going on right now. Not a problem. It's a busy time, CPA. You just got off the busiest season. Maybe you need a little bit to reset. What's an ideal time for me to circle back with you? And I never say ideal time of year, because for whatever reason, psychologically, when you say time of year, people push it further. But I could not tell you how many times I've
Christmas.
said this to people, and I've said, I'm not interested. I don't have time for this. I don't have the budget for this. Not a problem. There's a lot going on right now. If now's not a good time to have this conversation, when would be ideal for us to talk? Well, give me a call back in a month. And I'm like, you're not interested. That's just not right this very second, right? So I really, really encourage you to, again, set those ideal next steps that way. That's all you need to do. Shift the mindset. Get really bold in your messaging. If you're hearing your competition message in a way, get away from that. Do not sound like they sound. Follow up. You want to commit to at least 12 touch points. That is ideally, you're looking at every 4 business days. So that's about 2 months of follow up. I would say go 90 days, but if you can commit to 60, I'd be super happy with that. There's a lot of data that goes to show that it takes 7 to 8 touch points to reach your ideal decision maker at all. So you really have to keep going and not make up those stories. But you do all of these things, and you're going to have the right opportunities. You're going to have people hand raising. You're going to have people identifying that they are the right prospect for you, and you'll get new business as a disruptor in your industry.
Follow-up is so key.
I'm going to go over lead finder. So we've got disruptive messaging. We've got disruptive mindset. We know how to follow up. Where do we find some leads? I'm going to give you guys really quick little exercise here on how to do that. How am I doing on time, Terry? I'm good?
You're good.
Okay. So these are 5 places that you already have leads in your world that you are probably not taking advantage of them. So there's a CRM or there's a spreadsheet somewhere of leads. It may be oh gosh, you guys, what I had a lot was right before COVID, people had done these expos or conferences, trade shows, and then COVID happened, the world shut down, and then nothing happened from those. So everyone's got old CRM, or old lists somewhere of leads. An attendee list for your last speaking engagement. And if you don't have the attendee list, ask for it. The worst thing that's going to happen is they're going to say no. It's happened to me one time that someone has said no to me. But other than that, ask for it. I also ask for the registration list from my speaking engagements, because sometimes people register and don't show up. Sometimes people show up and don't register. So you can ask for both. Social media engagements, those people who are always engaging in your content, always liking, following, sharing, commenting, but never really pulling the trigger to engage with you. You know, that's a great opportunity to reach out to someone and say, gosh, you know, you are just such a, you know, active contributor. I'd love to set up a time to get to know each other. Alumni publications. So let me see here. I've always got these here. This is from my business school at Tulane. You get these. So you get the alumni notes to see who's doing what. There's all kinds of articles for business leaders of people, some you may know from directly from school, and some maybe in, you know, different classes from you that you never knew, but you have that commonality of both being alumni from that group and reaching out. Hey, I saw that article about you in your promotion. That was badass. I'd love to set up a time and learn a little bit more about what you're doing, what your goals are. This is also available online. It's also available through social media platforms, have alumni networking groups. So utilize this, because what I've really learned, and in person, there's always in-person alumni events. You know, people want to support their fellow alumni, whether you're in the same class or not, it really doesn't matter. And the camaraderie and that commonality is really, really bonding. So I really encourage you. And it's very rare that you go and you see someone who does exactly what you do. It just doesn't really work like that. It's usually a really great, diverse group of these alumni things. And then good old-fashioned business cards, you guys. Okay. Show of hands who doesn't have these somewhere on or in your desk. Okay. I don't see anyone's hands going up. Everyone has these. Ladies, when you go into a purse that you haven't used in a little while, and you pull out cards of someone that you never reached out to, you put on a jacket that you haven't put on in a while, and you pull out a business card that you're like, oh, God, I never got with them, right? I've got a whole system and process that doesn't ever happen again going forward. I'm happy to share that with anyone offline that you'd like. But in the meantime, reach out to these. Whether it's been a month or a year, it doesn't really matter. What you do is you just reach out. Hey, who's this? Here. Charleston, Chuck. Hey, Chuck. I just came across your card and I cannot believe we never connected. Let's fix that. Here's my calendar link. It's super easy. You know, I just came across this. I cannot believe we were supposed to get that coffee. We never did. By the way, you guys, I'm not a big fan of doing coffees. I like to do stuff on Zoom, especially for an initial. You know, there's no need to take 2 hours out of your day to drive across town and have a coffee. It's something that can be done much more efficiently online. And I want to work with people who are busy. I want to work with people who don't have 2 hours in their day. If they've got 2 hours in their day to just, there might be, they might not be the right client for me, right? So that might be a little bit of a controversial opinion, because I'm all about in-person too. I like having both, but for these initial calls, initial kind of taking the temp, don't be spending all that time running around. For the full exercise for the lead finder, I've got about 15 to 20 ways, I think. Yeah, probably about 20 ways to do this. And you can get that if you go to my website, /lead finder. So feel free to go grab that. And it's got these, and it's got a bunch of other ways too, that you have people in your world right now that can be leads for you. All right. So I will just give myself my shameless plug. If you are looking to grow your business, if you want to get back some time in your calendar to take prospect and appointment setting off of your task list, if you have an offer that's at least $10,000 in annual revenue when you sign a new business client and you want to be a disruptor, please reach out. I would love to meet one-on-one and talk about how we might be able to support you. And I will open it up here. Questions, comments, and of course, always a standing ovation is accepted.
Golf clap. Anyone have any questions for Jennifer or comments?
I just wanted to say, I think it was a good reminder for me, especially for us women to not try and be I don't want to say timid, but to take space, right?
Yeah.
And so it is kind of pre-built into most of us, I think, to try and be apologetic. And so it's something that I constantly have to remind myself of, because it definitely is within my personality to do that.
Yeah, and you're right. Again, it goes back to stories that what we've told ourselves or what we've been told we have to be. And if you're coming with a heart of service, you don't have to worry about that. And people who have the wrong idea about you, they're not going to be the right people for you anyway. I had someone once, it was a very well-known women's line of clothing. And it was a man who told me that I was far too aggressive and it was very unbecoming. My behavior was unbecoming, he told me. So I'm not interested in working with them. I will never buy a piece of clothing from that line again either. Because I really would love to find someone say that to a man, that their follow-up was unbecoming. But again, I realized when that happened, I could have gone into like a, shitstorm about how this was like something about who I am. It's not. That's who he is. That has something to do with who he is. And it says nothing about me. And it helped me filter someone out that I'm really not interested in working with.
There's a fine line between assertive and aggressive, and I cross it often. It's just life.
For me, I think that the cadence is every 4 business days. Bob, I'd love to hear if you have a different idea. But I think every 4 business days, while you are pursuing to go to next steps, is you're right, it's a fine line, but the right people will appreciate the level of commitment that you have to working together.
Yeah, I kind of play it by ear, by the level of interest. If someone has a real lot of interest, of course, I'm going to follow up a lot sooner. But if someone doesn't, I'll kind of spread it out, and I'll even ask them sometimes, what's a good time to get back to you? And they'll usually tell me. Yeah. And they'll also appreciate the fact that you're not doing, you're not being overly. I mean, you kind of play it by ear. I do anyways when you're working with someone. I like the reminder on follow-ups, by the way. I think that's a weakness that every one of us has. I'll admit on mine. I get busy, and all of a sudden, a week or 2 goes by, and I'm like, oh damn. I should have called this guy. I should have called this person. So I go back in, I bring my CRM up to date, and then, I stay with it for a while, and I get busy again. And so I think it's really important to just remember to follow up.
Yeah.
And even older clients. I mean, I just connected with someone I met 21 years ago, one of the first clients I ever connected with, and they want to go out and have coffee and chat again. So you never know. By the way, I do like coffee, so I'm going to go out.
Go for it. No, I think it's important to make sure that you've got enough systems in place. Like you mentioned, a CRM. I use a CRM as well. I think that if you are dealing with more than 20 prospects, which hopefully everyone here is, you need to have a CRM. When I hear of someone who's doing this off of like an Excel spreadsheet, it freaks me out, because there's just no way that you can effectively follow up. Yeah. And things do not slip through the cracks if you're working on a spreadsheet. So using a CRM as a task manager is a really effective way to make sure nothing slips through the cracks.